Let's dive into the latest episode of Star-Crossed Souls. What happens when a 700,000 yen camera, engineered for just absolute perfection, violently collides with a 2 billion-year-old cosmic memory?
It is quite the collision.
Right, so today you are being grounded precisely in Volume 1, Tone 1, Phrase 2, the sacred Megaliths of Chōmei-ji Temple. We are looking at a text where hard physical realities like tectonic fault lines and raw optics act as a highly specific matrix for ancient memories to awaken.
And we really have to start with the physical tool capturing this reality, don't we? Kai Hoshino's rather uncompromising camera gear.
Exactly. He is wielding a Sigma SD1 Merrill. To a scientific mind, this choice is, well, it's borderline pathological, but the physics behind it are just extraordinary.
It is certainly not a machine designed for modern convenience. It demands something quite severe from the person holding it.
Absolute purity. I mean, think about the smartphone in your pocket right now, or really any commercial digital camera you might use. They rely on what is called a Bayer filter.
Which synthesizes the image, right?
Right. A Bayer filter essentially captures colors on a flat two-dimensional plane, because a single pixel on that sensor cannot capture red, green, and blue simultaneously. The camera uses an algorithm to guess the missing color data based on neighboring pixels.
So it's interpolation. Your camera is literally painting in the gaps.
Exactly. It is a synthesis of reality. But the foveon sensor inside Kai's camera refuses to guess. It absorbs the three primary colors vertically through three distinct stacked layers of silicon.
Mimicking the exact depth and physical behavior of traditional color film.
You got it. It records the raw, literal texture of reality without a single drop of digital manipulation. But here is the beautiful flaw in that uncompromising physics.
It demands absolute optical perfection.
Yes. The moment the sun sets, the moment you lose optimal lighting, this flagship camera turns into a completely useless sea of static and noise. It functions like a brilliant scientific instrument that simply refuses to compromise its integrity, to synthesize reality in the dark.
And that optical rigidity is precisely what makes it the only tool fit for a man like Kai. We must remember his background. He is a former historic masonry craftsman.
A guy who deals exclusively in raw stone, in mortar, and unvarnished truth.
Quite. When we translate the uncompromising physics of this sensor into the philosophy of the craftsman, we encounter the phenomenon known as Merrill's curse. It is an incurable affliction for those demanding this absolute, unyielding purity from their tools.
Which makes perfect sense given the origins of the instrument.
Exactly. The Merrill was forged by the Aizu craftsman, high in a region defined by deep snow and bitter, punishing cold. Kai inherently understands that a true soul resides only in tools honed in such unforgiving environments.
Which brings us to the lag. Every time Kai takes a photograph with this camera, he has to endure an agonizing 10-second data saving time.
10 whole seconds.
Yeah, the processor is just completely overwhelmed by the sheer, uncompressed volume of raw physical data it just absorbed. For anyone else, that mechanical lag is a critical failure.
But for Kai, it is a profound ascetic practice. That 10-second delay is not a mechanical flaw to him. It is a period of absolute worship.
A quiet, intense dialogue with the memories of the rock he has just photographed.
Precisely. He does not view the camera as consumer electronics. He views it as a tool with a soul. A hypersensitive instrument designed to capture the very particles of the air and the history embedded in the stone.
And speaking of the stone, from the physical machine capturing the rock, we are forced to examine the physical reality of the rock itself.
The ascent.
Right. To reach this specific location, Kai forces Kaho to ascend 808 grueling stone steps to reach the sacred megaliths, the Iwakura of Chōmei-ji Temple.
Now, you look at that as a biological inefficiency, don't you?
Well, yeah, from a purely geological standpoint, forcing a subject to climb 808 uneven stone steps up a mountain just to take a portrait is highly inefficient. You're burning massive amounts of calories for a scenic view that could easily be replicated in a controlled studio environment.
But viewing it as merely a scenic hike completely misses the underlying physics of the coordinate.
Exactly. Let me present the geological data here. Mount Ikiya sits directly on top of a major tectonic fault line within the Lake Biwa Basin. The megaliths clustered around this temple are not arbitrary decorative stones. They are massive, high-density quartz deposits.
Right. And you know what happens when immense tectonic stress builds up along a fault line beneath specific quartz megaliths?
You trigger the piezoelectric effect.
Exactly. The fault line exerts massive, crushing mechanical pressure on everything above it. When you apply severe mechanical compression to a quartz crystal lattice, it generates a localized electrical charge.
like the clicker on a standard lighter generating a tiny spark.
Right, but scale that mechanism up to the size of an entire mountain packed with megalithic quartz. That tectonic compression creates a massive localized electromagnetic shield,
A geophysical defense mechanism.
stabilizing the grid to protect the biological life in the valley below from geomagnetic anomalies and radiation. It is a literal shield generated by the crushing weight of the Earth. And this geological shield translates seamlessly into its mythological and historical counterpart. Ancient peoples did not possess the vocabulary of the piezoelectric effect, nor did they understand electromagnetic shielding in modern terms.
But they absolutely felt its resonance.
They did. They observed the protection it offered. Because of this localized frequency, they viewed this isolated lacustrine island as Mount Penglai, or, in Japanese mythology, Tokoyo, the utopian land of immortality and eternal life.
So the history of this specific coordinate is very deliberate.
Oh, absolutely. The legendary statesman Takuchi no Sukuni prayed for longevity here under the 12th Emperor Keiku. Later, Prince Shitoku discovered a cipher carved into a willow tree, urging him to found the temple on this precise tectonic coordinate.
Meaning those 808 steps Kaho is forced to climb.
They are not merely stairs. They are the spiritual equivalent of the fault line's pressure. The sheer physical hardship of the ascent is an absolute ascetic practice designed to strip away the ego and shed worldly desires.
Physically raising the human body's frequency so it can match the formidable resonance of the mountain itself.
Precisely.
So, we have established how the Earth physically records its own memory in the megaliths, acting as like a planetary tuning fork through tectonic pressure.
But the text then shifts your focus to a different kind of pressure.
Right. How human and eventually cosmic memory is physically archived and transported across time. We have to examine the extreme physical logistics of data preservation.
Which is a heavy burden.
It is. I mean, think about how fragile the digital data on your personal devices is. A strong enough solar flare or a corrupted hard drive could erase your entire recorded history in a second.
To counter this decay, Kaho discusses the era of the Kentushi, the Japanese envoys to Tang China, and specifically the Imperial Library, the Jixian Hall Academy.
You really have to consider the sheer physical weight of knowledge carried by the scholar Kibi no Makibi. He crossed treacherous, storm-ravaged seas to act as a literal floating library.
Bringing back an unfathomable volume of physical data.
Scrolls and texts that acted as a massive national operating system update for an entire civilization. It established new scientific scales for civil engineering, pharmacology, and weaponry.
It is the ultimate terrifying manifestation of the archivist's power. In the ancient world, an archivist was not a quiet librarian organizing books.
No, they were the supreme custodians of state memory.
They held the architectural blueprints of civilizations. They were the advisors to emperors.
Exactly. And the most striking physical evidence of this power is the epitaph. Kaho notes that Makibi wrote the Lishan epitaph for a Tang official. Now, we tend to think of an epitaph as just, mere poetry or a sentimental memorial.
But it was not.
Not at all. It was an immutable physical data drive, carved irrevocably into stone. It served as the definitive curriculum vitae for the soul. It was a physical identity card designed explicitly through material science to survive the violent collapse of entire states and civilizations.
And you must translate this concept of an indestructible physical data drive directly to Kaho's own bloodline. The preservation of memory is not just etched in stone, it is etched in her DNA.
Right. The text reveals that the Japanese character Ho, meaning true sail, has been systematically passed down through 5 generations of her maternal line.
This naming convention is not an aesthetic choice by her ancestors, it is a physical anchor. Her Turkish heritage traces back to the 1890 tragedy of the Ertuğrul frigate off the rocky coast of Wakayama.
A harrowing event where local Japanese villagers saved drowning Turkish sailors.
Yes, a single event that forged a profound century-long brotherhood between 2 entirely distinct nations. She recounts how her grandmother survived the catastrophic Showa Nankai earthquake strictly because of tsunami stones.
Ancient physical monuments anchored deep into the earth by previous generations.
To warn future descendants exactly where the floodwaters would reach. Her entire lineage is defined by the physical transmission of life-saving data.
Even Kaho's independent publishing house, Seishusha, which translates to starship, operates on this exact same principle.
It is fundamentally a vessel meticulously designed to carry heavy knowledge across the turbulent seas of time. She goes about her day entirely oblivious to the scale of her own identity, but she is, in fact, a priestess of the water goddess.
She is harboring the 2 billion-year-old memories of O-Rei Lee. the Archivist of Lyra.
Her earthly biological lineage is merely the physical encryption key to a cosmic vault.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the violent convergence of all these elements in the final moments of their twilight photo shoot. We have the geological reality of the fault line beneath their feet, the uncompromising physical optics of the camera in his hands, and the ancient heavy lineage of the Archivist standing before him.
The tension is incredible.
As the light fails, Kai's precious foveon sensor becomes entirely useless. The optical purity it demands is no longer available. So, he switches his gear, he picks up the Lumix S1R and mounts a massive Sigma 85mm f1.4 prime lens.
The drastic shift.
You need to understand the mechanical violence of this specific optical adjustment. Shooting at an aperture of f1.4 from that close of a physical proximity creates a terrifyingly shallow depth of field.
It completely obliterates the surrounding context.
Exactly. He is forcing a massive, violent convergence of light particles through the glass of the lens, engineered solely to completely isolate Kaho's irises from the surrounding spatial environment. He is not just taking a photograph.
He is literally extracting 187 million pixels of raw data directly from her eyes.
Right.
And the result of this optic extraction is profound and immediate. As Kai pierces her straight through the viewfinder with that aggressive funneling of light, the sheer concentrated intensity forces open Kaho's pineal gland.
The third eye.
Yes. Her eyes are normally a pale blue amber. They are filled with what the text calls sunspangles. These are golden inclusions formed when ancient memories, entombed in amber for tens of millions of years, suddenly burst under extreme heat and pressure.
And under the mechanical extraction of his lens, those sunspangles ignite.
Her eyes shift entirely, radiating the terrifying kunzite violet light of a cosmic abyss. You must understand that this brutal, close-quarters convergence is absolutely not a romance.
Do not mistake this for mere affection.
It is undeniable, absolute quantum entanglement. It is a terrifyingly powerful magnetic resonance vibrating between the photographer, who is physically extracting the light, and the archivist, who holds the heavy memories of the universe.
The resonance is so dominant, so mathematically precise, that it bypasses her earthly consciousness entirely.
The woman standing there is no longer just Kaho, the publisher.
The pressure extracts the truth. The fault line extracts the electromagnetic shield, the camera extracts the raw light, and Kai extracts O-Arieliu.
Precisely, which leaves us with an agonizing, almost suffocating tension as they finally pack up the gear and begin their descent down the mountain.
Heading down to get some BB beef, of all things.
The juxtaposition is exquisite. Think of the staggering physical and psychic toll of what just occurred. The exhaustion of the 808 steps, the overwhelming mechanical extraction of light, the sheer crushing weight of a 2-billion-year-old memory teetering on the absolute edge of awakening.
And yet after all of that, they're merely heading toward a local restaurant.
You have this profound cosmic magnetic resonance vibrating between them, a quantum entanglement tying their very atoms together, masked entirely by the mundane reality of a hungry photographer and a physically exhausted publisher walking down a hill.
Hiding in plain sight.
One has to wonder how long this frail earthly facade can possibly withstand the tectonic pressure of the archive buried beneath it. I am waiting with absolute eager anticipation to see exactly what physical constraints and historical locks are shattered in next Friday's update.
Letters by letter, volume by volume, this extraordinary duo is ready to lift the veil. The Chronos archive is now open. Let the great tuning begin. Star-crossed souls.